Previously on Foursquare Sports.
The season, it's getting close to over. I'm not saying it's over yet. Things need to change, and they need to change not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, now. Do something now. And I'm sick and tired of Aaron Boone mismanaging the game on all fronts. He has absolutely no feel for the game anymore.
Kevin Zelikovic went into an ideal rant about the New York Yankees manager, Aaron Boone, and how the Yankees have had a lack of change. But what did they do after that rant? They put Jazz Chisholm Jr. back at second base. They cut DJ LeMahieu. The offense is firing all fronts. The pitching is getting better. And yours truly was at the game on Friday night, and here's my reaction during that contest.
I am in disbelief. I am in utter disbelief. 8 innings of solid Carlos Rodon ball, and it's not even just me that's undefeated this year. It's me when I'm with her.
Yes!
This is unfreaking real. Go Yankees! Go!
The New York Yankees are undefeated this season when Sammy and I both go to the Yankees games, and we're going to go to the game tomorrow, but we will see how that pans out tomorrow when Will Warren takes them out. While the Yankees did lose today, 5 straight wins after a rant is pretty impressive. But enough chatter. Let's start the show.
Oh, why? Let's ride! What are you doing?
Foursquare Sports!
When Luis Petroza says Matt is fried, I truly was fried that day on Friday. So for those of you who don't know by now, I am not in my beloved house in New Jersey. I am in New York City at the Manhattan Club near Times Square. I'm going to be here for 4 days. I was telling the guys before we came on that I'm here for a little bit. I'm going to the Yankee game tomorrow. I went to the game yesterday. I didn't go today, and apparently if I went today, things would not have been good for my streak. But anyways, enough chatter. I'm Matt Sirianni. I'm from the Garden State of New Jersey, but I'm taking over in the Big Apple. That's Alec Nava of North Carolina. That's Kevin Zelikovic of Texas, and that's John Welch of Washington. How y'all doing?
Feeling great, Matt. Like you mentioned, Yankees, it looks like they listened to me a little bit, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm feeling pretty good today.
I'm feeling excellent. I hope you all are too. But I do want to also get into another thing. I wish I had that Luis Petroza clip on its own, because I also made a very awful take about Amanda Nisimova saying she could not beat Arina Sabalenka. And let's just say I was fried on that one.
Fried to a crisp, I might add.
Fried to a crisp.
Oh my god.
Fried to a crisp. Now I do want to say, for the record, I also did say that if Arina Sabalenka did lose to another American, which she did, she'd probably go crazy in the locker room. There's confidential footage that apparently the WTA has of Arina Sabalenka in the locker room that hasn't been revealed. I don't think the WTA wants to reveal that footage because I can only imagine what happened back there. But, oh my God, I can only imagine. Also, we have expanded our audience. If you live in Washington State, we are coming to you live from a certain platform. John will give us more details probably towards the end of the show of where we're coming to you live from. But Foursquare Sports is the place to be. This is where it's sports at its core. And we're going to bring you everything of every single sport, all the updates and stuff like that. So we're going to start off with Major League Baseball. So like we touched on the beginning, the Yankees have won 5 in a row. Coming into today, they lost today. Max Fried also hurt his hand, supposedly. But during that 5-game winning streak, the Yankees were actually playing really good baseball. They were making really good plays defensively, including the Cody Bellinger double play in the final game against the Mets. I saw Aaron Judge dive for 3 balls and rob a home run from Pete Crow Armstrong. Carlos Rodon twirled 8 solid innings yesterday. It was all going really good. But now you lose by 2. You lose 5-2 to the Cubs today. But on a positive note, Aaron Judge did become the fastest man to hit 350 home runs for his career. So that's a positive side. But I want to also get into, before we get into the home run derby, I do want to also talk to Kevin. What do you think Aaron Boone did? Do you think he took your advice?
So, first of all, Matt, isn't it nice how whenever they make simple moves, such as moving Jazz into his natural position at second base, and then DFAing DJ LeMahieu, which they should have done years ago, isn't it nice how when they make moves like that, it benefits the team?
Yes.
Because you see it firsthand. Jazz, that second base is his natural position. We saw, like, he can't play third base, but he had some shoulder issues, which he was regarding, and he said, "Look, listen, I'm better at second base, but I can play third if you need me to. I'm not going to, like, complain about it." But as soon as Boone saw that, puts him immediately at second base, and the defense and the team defensively are just immediately better off with Jazz Chisholm Jr. at second base. Now, it sucks that they have to DFA DJ LeMahieu, and his Yankees career is officially over. I think this should have been done years ago. It's no disrespect to DJ LeMahieu. I think he can still hit. I think his bat is still there, but defensively, Brian Cashman stated that physically DJ LeMahieu was just not there anymore. He's not capable of doing it anymore. So they made the tough decision to DFA him. And I think that's a good decision because I think it's just maybe a coincidence at this point that they went 5-0, now 5-1 after my rant. But I think it's also perfect timing because when you look at where the Yankees are right now, they're currently after today's loss, they're 2.5 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays for first in the American League East. Mm-hmm. And if they're able to win tomorrow, if they win the final series before the All-Star break against the Cubs, hopefully that happens. But also, it's great to see that Boone is also putting out a consistent lineup. And he's leading off Jason Dominguez, which I think should be the move going forward. I know he didn't lead off today because it was against the lefty pitcher Matthew Boyd, and he had Paul Goldschmidt lead off, and Jason Dominguez is not as strong hitting from the right side as he is the left side.
Yeah.
But I digress. Like, I think, like, even though it's against lefties, I still feel like you got to find a way to have Dominguez get more at-bats against lefties so he can be, better and try to improve the average from his right side. Now, another thing about the Yankees is that, like, people are hitting, especially Cody Bellinger, which now he extended his hitting streak to 16 games, which is a career high for him. And he hit 3 homers last night against the Cubs. Almost 4 because Kyle Tucker robbed him of his 3rd home run at the time. And if he would have hit 4 home runs, he would have been the first Yankee since Lou Gehrig to hit 4 homers in a single game.
Oh my God.
Also, last night, when he hit 3 home runs, it's the first time in Yankees franchise history where 3 Yankees had 3 homer games. Judge did it earlier this year, and Dominguez earlier this year, and now Bellinger does it. And he has been unbelievable, man, including Jazz Chisholm Jr. going to the home run derby. And Carlos Rodon was just selected to the All-Star team, replacing Max Fried. And he pitched like an All-Star, too. He had 8 strikeouts, 8 innings of shutout ball. And another thing I really liked, Aaron Boone kept him in for Kyle Tucker, which I loved. Because Rodon is like, I got him. Look at what I'm doing right now. Give me 8. And 8 innings pitch was actually a career high for him. And he got Kyle Tucker out along with some Aaron Judge nice defense.
Oh my God.
Diving flight. Last night was just spectacular. The best game of the season. And I hope this continues tomorrow and hopefully post All-Star break. And looks like I got to rant to them more because this is exactly what I want to see.
So after watching last night's game, I was there last night. I guess I'll quote Deadpool. I literally got out of that game so excited, so hyped up, so pumped, and in the words of Deadpool, I was like, I'm feeling myself tonight. I don't know if that's PG-13, but like that's literally how I felt because you felt like the energy was back. You felt like the momentum had turned a corner, especially after the comeback against the Mariners where they were no hit through 7 innings.
Absolutely.
And they came back and rallied down 5 runs. They scored 5 runs in the 8th and 9th respectively, and then Judge hit that sac fly and a beautiful slide by Volpe in that game against Seattle. Cal Raleigh Volpe got around Cal Raleigh, who, by the way, continues to be a home run hitting machine. We'll probably get to John's perspective on that in a little bit. Cal Raleigh has hit 38 home runs, which is like menacingly amazing for a catcher.
Oh, man. For a catcher, nonetheless. And safe to say, Ryan Kessler is not the happiest man in Detroit.
No.
Because he... It's anyone saw that video, the ex-Vancouver Canucks star, he threw a home run ball back right onto the field after catching that, right after that grand slam. Kessler was not too pleased about it.
Yeah, and I know I've gotten John's perspective on Cal Raleigh over and over and over again, but if you look at the way, Judge hit a home run today. So if we ended the season today, Cal Raleigh would be 3 home runs ahead of Judge. He's 1 RBI ahead of Judge because they were going in tied at 81, but then Cal Raleigh hit a sac fly, which counts as an RBI. So Cal Raleigh has 82 ribbies compared to Judge's 81. Seiya Suzuki's been mighty quiet. I mean, he was leading the league in RBIs for a little bit, but then he's kind of fallen off a little bit, as have Pete Crow Armstrong and maybe even Kyle Tucker to a little bit of an extent. But the Major League Baseball race is getting close. I know Judge is trying to get that Triple Crown. He wants it so bad. He's right there. But second half of the season is only going to be telling. I think this final game against the Cubs, we'll see if the Yankees can finish on a positive note, and then we'll take it from there. But one thing I also wanted to get into when it came to Major League Baseball is the Home Run Derby, because that is known as an attraction for Major League Baseball during the All-Star break. And to me, I look forward to this every year. It's 8 people who want to win a little bit of a trophy. There's no pay that comes with it. You're not going to win money from this, but it's a fun little event. Now, do I wish Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani were participating in this event? Hell yeah, I would. But at the end of the day, you got to focus on the main thing that's important, and that's winning a championship. So, with that in mind, we're going to focus on the Home Run Derby participants for this year. And no, Judge and Ohtani will not be part of it, but O'Neal Cruz, Jazz Chisholm Jr., Matt Olson, Brent Rooker, Cal Raleigh, and then I'm trying to think. There's 3 more that I'm missing out.
Byron Buxton.
Byron Buxton's in there.
Junior Caminero.
Oh God, Junior Caminero. Oh my God. And then there's one more guy.
James Wood
of the Washington Nationals.
Right.
So those are your 8 participants in the Home Run Derby. And to me, a lot of these guys are like, well, Junior Caminero, I didn't expect him to be in the race at all. But I know Kevin at one point was hyping up James Wood, saying he should have been in the All-Star game, and he really should have. I mean, James Wood was playing out of his mind this year. And then Junior Caminero, I mean, the Rays are playing terrific, but Junior Caminero's kind of been like the savior, I guess you could say, for a Tampa Bay team that really has no star player. But I want to get into all of our perspective as to who we think is going to win the Home Run Derby. I'm going to start off with John first. John, who wins the Home Run Derby and why?
I think I'm going to have to go with the home favorite. I'm going to have to say Cal Raleigh just because he's got the hottest bat in baseball.
Okay. I like that. He does have the hottest bat in baseball. Kev, what do you think?
Well, Cal Raleigh is the clear favorite when it comes to odds. And also a quick little side note on Cal Raleigh. When he hit that 38th home run last night, that set an American League record for the most homers before the All-Star break.
Wow.
Which broke Chris Davis's record of 37 back in 2013. Now, the Mariners' final game is tomorrow before the All-Star break. And if Raleigh hits one more homer, he's going to tie Barry Bonds, who has the most first-half homers for the Giants in 2001. That's the most in MLB history. So if he hits one more tomorrow, that's record tying. That
would be significant. Now, I don't see Cal Raleigh hitting 73 home runs, and if he does, that would be monumentally impressive.
Now, as far as my home run derby winner, I mean, you guys know how much I've hyped up James Wood, how I feel it's criminal that he's not in the All-Star game. I really could see James Wood really being a finalist in the home run derby. Previously I was saying don't count Ronald Acuna Jr. out, but now that he's bowed out in place of Matt Olson, I really feel like James Wood, it could be a real dark horse in the Derby. So I'm going to go James Wood for myself.
All right, Alec, who are you feeling?
I know the popular pick may be Cal Raleigh. Another pick may be Matt Olson, and you can see where he's coming from. James Wood may be up there. But I'm going to have to go with Junior Caminero. He's one of the more fun players to watch. He's in the middle of everything for a very surprising race team. Though one could say that he is the focal point of this race team. If there was a home run trot derby, as the MLB website said, that he would be the winner of such. Well, he did take that 454-foot solo shot in the Dominican Republic Professional Baseball League Championship. If he were to win it, he'd be the youngest player ever to win the Derby. Might be a little too early to expect him to win this, but anything could happen. And he is one of the more exciting players to watch.
I mean, he's been really impressive. I like the way Junior Caminero has played. And like I said, this race team has been really surprising. My home run derby pick, and this is probably going to shock a lot of people, including Alec, but I like O'Neal Cruz to come out on top. And the reason why, O'Neal Cruz can hit for power. I've seen him hit bombs. And this guy has the height, the size, and he's strong with the baseball. Now there's a couple players that I think could have been in the home run derby. Like if a guy like Ellie De La Cruz was in the home run derby, I felt like that would have been a little bit more exciting. Like I would have taken out Byron Buxton if he was still hurt, and I would have inserted Ellie De La Cruz, because Ellie is kind of like O'Neal Cruz, tall, muscular, fast to an extent. I mean, O'Neal Cruz is still trying to feel out, the outfield because he couldn't play infield. But from a hitting perspective, I like the way O'Neal Cruz hits the baseball.
Oh, hardest hit ball of the StatCast era. Don't forget that. He shot that one right onto the Allegheny.
Oh, it was incredible. The guy is coming into his own a little bit, and I'm glad that he's actually getting some sort of coverage and some sort of way to get some exposure. And I think the home run derby can do that for him. Now, another development that's actually going on in the All-Star game or All-Star weekend, and I'm actually praising the heaven that this is actually happening. Major League Baseball is bringing in the ABS, or automatic balls and strikes system, into the All-Star game. Now, for those of you who don't know what ABS is, it's basically AI calling balls and strikes, because we've seen a lot of human error with umpires recently. And if you watch spring training before the MLB season even started, it works out like this. If a pitch is not the way a player thought it would be, if it was a ball, if it was called a ball and they think it's a strike, they could just simply tap their head, challenge. You can do that twice per at bat. Now, Major League Baseball wants to do this to kind of feel it out a little bit, because it's popular in spring training. And I think that with so many umpires making so many mistakes, I think this had to be tested out at some point. And I'm glad that Major League Baseball has actually taken the initiative to actually go through with this. John, what do you think?
Well, I think it's been a long time coming. Automated systems are in place in other sports, tennis especially. They've been talking about AI and doing this type of refereeing electronically for the last decade or so, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as I'm concerned, it's just been a long time coming. I think it's needed. I think it makes the batter's box fair for everybody, no matter what their pitching, their batting stance is.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of it. I've seen a lot of bias in the last 2 or 3 years when it comes to balls and strikes.
Yeah, part of it could be bias, but part of it could be just a lack of sight and knowing where ball placement is when it comes to pitches. So I want to make a full disclosure here. When when they first announced that ABS was going to be tested in the minors back in 2019, I said, when I was part of Rutgers University Student Radio, I said, watch. This is going to be a thing in several years to come. And the guys at Rutgers laughed at me and said, oh, there's no way that's going to happen. Robot umpires aren't coming to the game. Oh, who's laughing now? Because look at what's going on. So, Kev, I know you were one of the first person that actually brought up the story in the baseball Discord. But now that you see this coming into an all-star game as a little bit of a test, if you will, How do you think this is going to fare with the players?
Well, I think you're going to have like a mixed bag, especially when it comes to the players, because some players like it and some players don't. And I think that this is better for the game because you guys know how much that I was advocating for this like for quite some time, because there have been some recent cases with umpires, and like even for a long time now, where the human error element is there, and clearly they get calls wrong. And this is just a little bit of a test run that MLB is trying at with the All-Star game, where it's very low stakes. It's kind of like just for funsies and all that, and affect any games that much. And they're talking about implementing it for a full season next year. So this is a bit of a test run here. So I think like you're going to get kind of a mixed bag from players, because some players will be in favor for it, some players won't. It's very new to these players. And I think it's going to change the game, and I think for the better, just like the pitch clock was, how it sped up the game a little bit better. Again, we were kind of, everyone, including myself, was a bit skeptical of like implementing a pitch clock, because we're just kind of used to seeing like long games and like just getting used to the feel of watching a baseball game. But now that the pitch clock has been implemented, we kind of have like a little bit of a reprieve from it, and now we're just used to the game being a little bit quicker. And I think that makes the game of baseball better. And I think the robo umpire and the ABS challenge system is going to make the game better in that sense. So we'll see exactly how it's going to play out in the All-Star game.
Yeah, you mentioned the pitch clock being something that people were skeptical about in the beginning, but really, think of it this way: if you implement a pitch clock, you're basically speeding things up. You're increasing pace of play, which I think Major League Baseball needed. Because think of it, if I'm sitting there on my hands watching a guy take 2 minutes to pitch a baseball, it kind of drags on. And I think one of the good things Rob Manfred did as commissioner of Major League Baseball, I know people criticize him for the 2022 lockout, but speeding up the game and making it more fun, I think is exactly what Major League Baseball needed. Now, as far as the robot umpire thing, human error, listen, humans are not perfect. We'll get that out of the way right now. Humans are not perfect. Now there's Angel Hernandez. But it's just basic. It happens. It happens all the time. But to prevent guys like Jazz Chisholm Jr. yelling at umpires and getting potential suspensions and keeping his cool, you want to implement something like this where it's like, okay, all right, that's just how the system works. And here's where I think this should happen though. You can keep the umpire there for ABS, but if there's a play at the plate, that's where I think you go. That's too far. If there's a play at the plate and an AI calls it or a robot umpire calls it, that's not good. If there's a play at the plate, you need an umpire there. No robot. But Alec, so we mentioned before with the robot umpire or ABS system coming into the All-Star game and potentially even this next season, 2026. Do you think that this could be expanded upon in future years? I mentioned, no robot umpires for plays at the plate, but do you think that automatic balls and strikes are like the base right now for 2026, or do you think that in future years this is going to expand?
We're going to take it one step at a time. You mentioned about plays at the plate. So for the moment, if you were to use a robot umpire, it's for strikes and balls at this current moment.
Yeah.
We're going to start there, and we're going to take it one step at a time. If we feel that it is one step too far, then we reverse course and limit it only to strikes and balls. That's how I feel it should be done. Now, given that, from a poll from The Athletic of 134 players, 63.4% responders of MLB players said they were against a fully automated system. Keyword here, 134 players. So it doesn't encapsulate the entire MLB, and just 17.1% were in favor. The complications of such a fully automated system include how to measure the strike zone and whether it should be dependent on a player's height or batting stance. So that's where it could be in the way of that. Rob Manfred said that back in June. He said, quote, "My single biggest concern is working for the process and deploying it in a way that's acceptable to the players. There's always going to be things around the edges that we need to work through and whatever. And they wanted to feel like we respected the committee process and that there was a full area of concerns about the system and an attempt to address those concerns before we go forward," end quote.
I mean, that's actually well said, the way Rob Manfred put it. I mean, there's nothing else he could really say in that moment. I think that was there was no other way to say it. Now, I like the one thing he said where it's like, okay, we're going to measure it based on height and size of a baseball player. Now, I mentioned Aaron Judge a lot, but if you watch Aaron Judge's at bats, he'll get the strike at the knees call. Now, how ABS is going to measure the strike zone with a guy who's 6'7" in there might be different from having a guy in there who's like 6'1" or 6 foot. There might be ways where the system could be fraudulent. But again, if next year's going to be the first year that you're going to do this, and Rob Manfred has hinted that that's going to be the case, then there's going to be some error for this. But again, if it's making the game safer, yes, John?
Baseball has been America's pastime because of the strategy, because of the stats, because of what you do in your building of your game. And I think this is a very slippery slope where once you go down this road, it's going to remove a dimension of those stats, of that strategy, in a way that will feel negative, whether the impact is negative or not.
Fair. That's fair to say. I'm interested to see how the Major League Baseball All-Star Game will work with this ABS system. And if it goes well, then maybe they'll take steps forward with the next year and maybe expand upon that from there, like Alex said. But one last piece of baseball news I wanted to get into, and John mentioned this, and I was very, very surprised. The state of Oregon has built a MLB-like baseball park. Now, there's replications for this. Maybe there's a chance that maybe Major League Baseball can expand to 32 teams, if not more. Now, John mentioned this first. John, you want to expand upon this?
So what's the field hasn't been built, but the money has been set aside. And what's interesting about that is Oregon is basically saying, as a state, Portland as a city, we want to be more attractive as a sports state, as a sports city. I think it makes it more interesting for a potential buyer of the Trailblazers. Now that the Trailblazers are up for sale, maybe you have somebody come in and they buy the Trailblazers and start preparing for an MLB team in Portland, which would be really, really cool. But I think Portlandians are weirdly excited since they like weird things.
Yeah.
It's kind of been fun to see people spitball names, what the baseball team name would be.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I said was that it's kind of tragic that the A's jumped the gun and moved to Vegas, where Oregon would have been a really cool spot for them to land.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. But now you're kind of looking at, Oregon is in the mix to potentially be a Major League Baseball team. But now my question to all you to people like Kevin, who are diehard Major League Baseball fans, is MLB even ready for an expansion? Now, one thing I wanted to mention, there were rumblings at one point in time that the city of Nashville, Tennessee wanted to expand and maybe create their own baseball team. And I remember this in the works. They were going to be named the Nashville Stars. And Justin Timberlake was going to be their owner. How that would have worked, I have no clue how that would have worked. And I'm honestly thinking that everyone wouldn't have been in sync. It's a bad pun. That's such a dad pun. Anyway, but that was a concept. And even North Carolina, there was like rumblings about a Major League Baseball team coming to North Carolina, because they do have spring training fields in North Carolina. Alec would know this because he lives there. So Major League Baseball expansion. Now, if they were to expand to 32 teams or even more, why can't we bring back the Montreal Expos? I mean, people have been clamoring for the Expos to come back for a long time. And, if Portland, Oregon's in the mix, if North Carolina's in the mix, or if even the Nashville Stars, if that's even a real thing. I mean, Justin Timberlake could probably tell you what the real story is. But Kevin, do you think Major League Baseball could be in for an expansion down the line?
I think it could, in I guess the right circumstance, because like we mentioned before with the National Stars thing. Now I didn't even know about that until very recently, and then with what John brought up about potentially a team coming out of Portland. I mean, like you make up a great point. I mean, like if they can bring back like the Montreal Expos and this sort of thing, then I think maybe the expansion could be possible. I mean, it has to work in the right circumstance. We saw how it worked in the NHL's case, where they expanded to more teams like the Vegas Golden Knights, the Seattle Kraken. So it can happen. It just has to come at the right point in time. And we'll see if that does come into fruition. We're just gonna have to see. Because for baseball, we're gonna see what happens.
I also think that another factor in. Go ahead, John.
If Justin Timberlake weighs in on owning a Major League Baseball team, it probably won't be till May.
Oh,
It's gonna be.
We got jokes over here, huh?
We got in sync jokes over here. So I think one other factor that I think people don't really realize about a potential expansion is the CBA. Everyone knows that 2020 after 2026, the MLB will be in discussion of a new CBA agreement. Other methods of what could be in the CBA include the salary cap, but I don't want to think about a salary cap right now because Rob Manfred has already planted the seeds about a potential salary cap, and already the players and owners are bickering like children about it, which I think is still bad. But for a potential expansion to be in the CBA, I mean that could be one step to get more teams in there. Now, I think 32 would be good because if you get 32 teams in, you put one in the American League and you put one in the National League. Sometimes the leagues are based on geographic, but it really depends on the situation, like Kevin said. Alec, if there were to be two more teams to add to Major League Baseball, kind of like in the NHL where Seattle and Vegas came into the mix, what two locations do you think are more poised for a Major League Baseball team at this point?
well, you did mention in Portland as for one of them, and they may be under construction for one of those MLB spots. But if we're looking at a major city that could be in the mix for an MLB team in the future, you mentioned it, Matt, earlier. Why not just bring back the Montreal Expos? Because they got their team taken from them by means of outside bidding and relocation. And fans were not happy. They wanted to keep the Expos. Baseball in Montreal would do wonders in bringing back another Canadian team to the MLB. If you want to make it free, go ahead and put one in Vancouver at this point. Well, how about that? If we want to get the MLB having free teams in Canada, if not a free teams in Canada, how about a team right around Raleigh? I know Charlotte's getting all of the professional teams that have most of the attention.
Yep.
Like such as with the Panthers and the Hornets, and if for those who follow footy, Charlotte FC. The Raleigh has the Hurricanes. So if you want to balance it out, why not put an MLB team close to Raleigh? You just gotta have the funding around for a baseball stadium close by the city. That's the only question. If you want to have that around the Research Triangle area, I mean, in terms of AAA, you already have the Durham Bulls, but they already play in Durham. I'm still talking about the MLB. So if you want to have it close to Raleigh, then this is the place to do it. Plus, you already have USA Baseball complex over at Thomas Brooks Park. So that makes a lot of sense to have a baseball team in Raleigh.
Yeah, the pieces are all there, but I think funding, like you mentioned, is a big factor as to what could play into a potential expansion. But I think it all comes down to what happens in the CBA agreements. I mean, Rob Manfred might agree to an expansion, but also keep in mind, Rob Manfred's tenure as MLB commissioner ends after the 2028 season. So whether or not he wants to continue an expansion when someone takes his place is completely up to him. But there's still a lot more to be said. We have to wait, I think, another year and a half for CBA agreements. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the road. Now I want to get into the NFL because a couple interesting developments have come out. The NFL postseason is very close. It's very close. And then when I mean NFL preseason, I mean the Hall of Fame game, which is good for anything that doesn't have to do with DeMarcus Lawrence singing or DeMarcus Ware singing the national anthem. But there have been a couple stories that I think really entice me. So in the the Netflix series Quarterback, which features Kirk Cousins in season 2, he revealed that he believed he was misled by the Atlanta Falcons when they drafted Michael Penix Jr. after he signed a 4-year, $180 million contract, in which $100 million of that was supposed to be guaranteed. Now, if you watch what happened to the Atlanta Falcons in the 2024 season, Kirk was good at the beginning of the year, then he fell off, and then they tried to spark a fire by putting Michael Penix Jr. in. Now Kirk Cousins looks like he's on his way out the door, even though he's getting all this guaranteed money. So I'm going to come to each one of you for these stories, and we're going to see where we stand. So first off, I want to come to John on this one. When you believe Kirk Cousins was misled, or when he says he's misled by the Atlanta Falcons, do you really believe that, or do you think the Falcons had their own thing in mind and they didn't tell Kirk?
Well, I think both of those can be true at the same time. I just watched the episode that you're referring to, and it was really interesting to hear his side of the story, because he's talking about wanting to, at that point in his life, wanting to stay in Minnesota, and he was looking for a long-term deal. And when Minnesota said that it was going to be year to year, he started shopping himself, and that's when he ended up with this offer from Atlanta. And I think, that part of those conversations between his agent and the front office in Atlanta was that he was going to be their long-term quarterback. I'm sure that that's something that they said, whether it was, you can't put it in a contract, but he also talked about how disappointed he was when he, found out that they had drafted a quarterback in the first round. So I still think he's a relevant quarterback. It was rumored at one point that he would be in Pittsburgh, but he's only 1 year into his brand new 4-year contract. So
Yes.
buying him out and getting him out of Atlanta is a really, really expensive bullet to bite. And I don't know that Penix is going to play a full season. I don't know if he's up to it. It'll be really interesting to see how much playing time Cousins actually has this year.
Now, like I said, 4 years with $180 million salary. 1 year of that gone. You're talking like over 100 or close to or over $130 million still left to give Kirk Cousins. If you buy out of that contract, you're going to be in debt by, like I said, over $130 million. And I think the last thing the Atlanta Falcons want is to do that. You want to think smarter, not harder. I mean, listen, Kirk Cousins fell off towards the end of the year, but at the end of the day, he still has value to him, and maybe he can mentor Michael Penix to be better. I mean, from what I saw from Michael Penix Jr. last year, he looked like he was still trying to work things out with his play. And I think that in due time, maybe Michael Penix could be good, but if you're looking at trying to get Michael Penix Jr. when he was at the University of Washington in there right away, it's going to take some time to build a chemistry with guys like Drake London, to be in command of an offense in the NFL, to work alongside good coaching for your offense. And the Falcons, I think they're probably like a second or third place team in the NFC South realistically. Like when we get to our division predictions somewhere down the line, I'll probably say that same thing. But Michael Penix Jr. to me, maybe he can benefit from Kirk Cousins, but I don't want the Falcons to really hurt themselves financially because they misled Kirk Cousins, or at least Kirk Cousins believes he was misled. Would you believe that sentiment to be true?
That would be the case. That if Kirk Cousins were to stay, it would be more of a mentorship role of Michael Penix Jr. And if they were to develop him on the progress, it takes time to develop such a young quarterback like Penix, who is entering his sophomore season after playing just 3 games, all of them in the late stages of last year. But this is more of a developmental phase for Atlanta, that they want to prioritize their future with MPJ, to have a mesh with this offense that includes Bijan Robinson and Drake London. That's the stepping stone of this offense. You already have a fully fledged offensive line with Chris Lindstrom leading that O-line. You have a lot around that you can build up from here. It's how it translates and how you can coordinate that. How Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, does building the relationship around between him, MPJ, and Kirk Cousins. I feel it's going to be a 3-man buildup for MPJ to develop.
That's very true. That could be very accurate. Next story in the NFL: Eli Manning was supposed to be a minor owner for the New York Giants, but he pulled out of that bid saying that it was going to be too risky and too expensive of a move. Obviously, Eli Manning is a very popular Giant. He won 2 Super Bowl rings. He should be in the Hall of Fame by now, but I'm not going to get into that sentiment again. But I feel like when you look at the way John Mara and Steve Tisch have run this football team, if you had a player like Eli Manning be your owner, you could probably have a little bit more of a moment of like uplift because you have a very popular player running your franchise. But Eli Manning pulled out of it. So I want to come to Kev on this one because we're both Giant fans here. Why do you think Eli Manning decided, okay, this isn't for me?
I think it's because like he saw it as like a big like commitment and like there's like a lot of risk involved, and I don't think like maybe Eli Manning is like ready for something like that. And we saw a case of it where like I'll go back to baseball for a perfect example. Remember when Derek Jeter had a stake in the Miami Marlins when he was trying to look how that turned out. Didn't turn out quite well. So I feel like maybe it's a similar thing to where Eli's like not sure if he really wants to tackle this type of thing on. But then it's also remember back when I think like a few months ago when we heard that it was both Eli Manning and Michael Strahan as finalists to have that 10% minority stake. Now that Eli Manning has pulled out of it, you have to assume that Michael Strahan is in line to get not to be the favorite to get that minority stake now.
I mean, Michael Strahan is part of Good Morning America here in New York City, so he has a lot of money and he has a lot of branding into his name that he could probably be the minority owner for the franchise. I still think John Mara and Steve Tisch push the buttons, and they're going to push the buttons the wrong way because that's just how they do it. But if Michael Strahan becomes the minority owner and he gets the stake, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think the Giants need at least a little freshening up as far as their front office and their ownership, because right now the way the Tisch combo is running the New York Giants is disgusting. Now, one thing you mentioned on last week's episode, Kevin, at least the Giants are trying to give themselves a fresh new look. Do I think they're going to win football games right away no matter what they do? It's going to take time. Like, realistically, whether they get a new owner or a minor owner or not, they're going to be a 5 or 6 win football team. Because right now, you need to work the kinks out as far as working on Russell Wilson, developing Jackson Dart, but also getting fans involved and interested again. And right now, fan interest is very low in New York.
And I'll throw in a side note. If you want to add some more fan interest, I mean, OBJ is still a free agent. Why not get him and get a nice reunion?
Yeah. John, were you going to say something?
I mean, it's what's tragic is you guys, the Giants have one of the best defensive lines they've had in a long time, one of the best receiving rooms they've had in a long time, kind of a wild card situation at quarterback, and all of this positivity coming together. And then the schedule comes out, and you guys have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL.
The toughest.
So it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Giant fans, I pity you. I very much pity you. Now, one last story I want to get into, and this is actually kind of for giggles. Nevada Man, I'm going to call him Nevada Man because we don't know the identity of this man, placed a $2.5 million bet that the Las Vegas Raiders would win the Super Bowl. And the Vegas Raiders odds are 100-1 according to DraftKings. So I don't know if you guys heard of Mattress Mac from Houston. They bet $3.5 million on the Houston Astros to win the World Series every year.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is like the NFL version of Mattress Mac.
Now, Mattress Mac, because I live in Houston, I can tell you all about it. It's not just the Astros. He bets on every Houston team. That's a good team. He bet on the Rockets a bunch of times. He bet on the UH Cougars winning the championship. So he's been he doesn't have a good track record when it comes to betting, as opposed to that one time he bet on the Astros.
All I'm going to tell you right now is if you're going to bet the Vegas Raiders to win, if you're going to bet $2.5 million, save your money. Don't place a bet like that. I'd rather place $2.5 million of a bet that the Cincinnati Bengals would make the playoffs rather than the Raiders would win the Super Bowl. Like, that to me just sounds like Alex got his glasses on. I can only imagine what he's reading.
You okay over there, Elmo?
You gotta have some serious audacity to even make something like that.
Honestly, that's $2.5 million of your own money, and you're going to use that to bet the Raiders to win the Super Bowl.
Oh my god,
Matt, I can only imagine Matt, particular better is. Man.
Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
I said I can only imagine that particular bettor is an Ashton Genty fan, because I see no reason why you would even risk that much money on a Raiders team that's in a rebuilding phase.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what this guy is thinking. I think he should just buy a condo or a big mansion with that $2.5 million. Don't spend it on the Raiders. I mean,
easy to buy a house. Maybe have a car for that house. I mean, this instead of this here is not guaranteed.
That is not guaranteed. Is right. That is not guaranteed. Now, John, correct me if I'm wrong. 100 to 1 odds. So if you're betting $2.5 million and you bet 100 to 1 odds, what is that? Like you're going to win $25 million, I guess?
Yeah.
Yep. Pass.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah, the problem is I like the Raiders. I like the draft that they have. I like that they hired Pete Carroll. I like that they went out and got Geno. The problem is they're still the third best team in their division.
Third.
I mean,
I think they're going to have a better record than the Broncos.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I could see that.
Well, that's at best, because we don't know what the Broncos, if they've truly broken out, but they seem to be on the right track. Keyword, seem to be.
Now, if I were to place a surefire bet on, well, realistically, you don't want to place a surefire bet. You don't put money on a surefire bet. You want to know why? Because you're not going to win much out of it. Like, if you say, okay, I'm going to place a $2,000 bet that the Eagles will win the NFC East, you're cheating yourself out of a little bit of money because you're not going to win much. You're basically going to win your money back and maybe a little bit less because the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. When we get to our division predictions, I'll probably say that again. Now, if you want to be bold and you want to win a little bit extra dough, you say things like, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make the playoffs as a 5 seed. And that's like a $1,500 bet. And it's like plus 120.
But that would be more reasonable type of bet. Or you could put and say want to have to make a. If you were to make a bet, you could say something like, I'm putting in money on the Green Bay Packers winning the NFC North.
Yeah, like something like that. Like if you're going to place a bet, this is gambling 101. You never go with the favorite if you're going to put down a lot of money. Because when the favorite wins, you're going to win a little bit less than what you bet. Like if I say like Yannick Sinner is going to win, if I place like a $10,000 bet that Yannick Sinner is going to win Wimbledon, and he's like minus 300 odds, you're going to win like a little less than $10,000. So be smart with your money. Like, now, when we get to NFL season, we're going to give you like a whole bunch of lines and spreads. Like we got a whole bunch of stuff prepared for that for NFL season. But I do want to get into Wimbledon now that I mentioned Yannick Sinner because I am very devastated. Why is this man even in the finals? I'm very pissed off right now. Now, for those of you who don't want to know why I'm pissed off, like Kevin's shaking his head because, like, in the round of 16, Yannick Sinner was taking on Grigor Dimitrov, the Bulgarian, who was ranked number 19 in the world. Grigor Dimitrov was up 2 sets, and he was tied at 2 in the third set. But then as he was serving this powerful overhand volley serve, he tore his pec. He went down, had to retire from the match, which would be him retiring from a 5th straight major, which means yet again, Yannick Sinner survives in the damnedest of ways. And I've said it before, and Kevin will probably echo my sentiment. Grigor Dimitrov is very popular. He's a guy that would have been probably one of the better tennis players in the world had he not been made of glass. Because this is the 5th consecutive Grand Slam he retired from, his 10th overall, which is the most in the Open era. And I think that this is literally ludicrous, the fact that Yannick Sinner is in the final and he has to, potentially win the title after going through what Grigor Dimitrov went through. And I'll give Yannick Sinner some good and bad. The good, he went back to the locker room to comfort Grigor Dimitrov because Grigor Dimitrov was clearly emotional. He couldn't shake Sinner's hand. It was a horrible scene. What was bad? Sinner didn't find the proper words to say in that type of situation, and he looked dumbfounded. Now, I understand it because of the circumstances, but Sinner could have at least showed a little bit more more empathy towards this, because Sinner was just like, I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't mean to advance this way. And yeah. It was just bad. It was a bad look on Sinner. Now you got to try and win the Wimbledon title. And I've said this before, and Kevin will know what I'm saying. Have any of you seen the movie Mean Girls?
Yep.
Kevin has.
Definitely.
You know the scene. Go ahead.
Yeah. I may have seen it. Well, I didn't. Well, I can't remember all of it in full detail. I do remember I've seen it at least once.
Okay, fair. John?
Yes.
Okay. So do you know the scene where Katie is, I guess, the prom queen crown, and she's tearing it to shreds and giving it to people?
Yeah.
If Giannis Sinner wins Wimbledon, he should break that trophy in half with a chainsaw, go to Grigor Dimitrov's house, and give him half the trophy. Because that's unfair.
Yeah.
It's completely unfair. And by the way, it'll be Giannis Sinner versus Carlos Alcaraz for the Wimbledon final on the men's side. And for the women's side, if you wanted to watch the final, I didn't watch the final because I was in Ellis Island looking at my ancestors. But I'd say I didn't miss much. Iga Swiatek beat Amanda Anisimova 6-0, 6-0. Double bagel, which is the first time that Wimbledon final ended in a double bagel since 1911. 114 years. And Kevin is probably like wondering, like, Matt, you didn't really miss much, but you probably got a lot to say about this men's final.
Yeah. First of all, I said it, I think, last episode about the women's final. I mean, it's gonna be either experience that wins or grit and toughness that wins for Anisimova, and clearly experience won in this case.
Yep.
Because Iga was absolutely insane. I didn't really watch much of it, if not all of it. But for the men's final, yeah, listen. I have no problem with Jannik Sinner, like the player, or even the person. I just have a problem with him getting lucked out by Grigor Dimitrov's injury. I think it's nonsense, and I think it's just very unfortunate for Grigor Dimitrov because he completely outplayed Jannik Sinner in that match.
He did.
2 sets to Jannik Sinner never led once in that entire match. If we're talking set scores. And Dimitrov was picking up on his serve. He was serving great. He was making Jannik Sinner move. It just sucks that, like you mentioned, Matt, that he's kind of made a glass with all these injuries. You can make the same argument, I guess, for a guy like Andy Murray, except the fact that he's won a couple of Grand Slams, but his entire career was plagued with injuries until he finally decided to call it up a couple of years ago. Where Grigor Dimitrov, 5 straight retirements due to injury, it just really sucks for him. I have to wonder if it's like maybe he's not getting the proper training regimen, or maybe he's not working out as much, or whatever the case may be. But like, if you're Dimitrov, you can't allow this to happen. Your health has to come first. I think he's around the same age as Novak Djokovic. I'm not sure exactly what his age is, but I know Novak is 38 years old. I think Grigor Dimitrov, is like 36, 37. But if you want to have advice on like your health regimen, why not ask Novak for something like that? Because if this is really like what's holding you back from like getting over the hump and like beating guys like Sinner, which would have been, I think, the best win of his career if he was able to pull it off, where it was looking like it was going to be, then you have to work on your health. And like, it was the same case with Novak Djokovic, where he was battling an injury and playing through it, but he decided to still finish the match and then ended up losing to Sinner again. It's the 3rd time this season where Novak has reached the semifinal and lost to, you guessed it, Jannik Sinner every single time. Lost him in 4 sets in the Australian Open, lost him in straight sets in this past French Open, and lost him in straight sets again in Wimbledon. It's very disappointing, and it sucks that Sinner is the one to make it this far when, in all likelihood, should not even be in the final because of that Grigor Dimitrov incident. And the Sinner Alcaraz, listen, I know that these 2 guys are going to lead the next generation of tennis when Novak Djokovic eventually retires. But right now, I'm really tired of seeing the same matchups every time with Sinner and Alcaraz. I wanted a guy like Taylor Fritz to finally get over the hump and get over to play, and it sucks that he lost to Alcaraz. I mean, I thought he looked great in that match. Guys like Ben Shelton, when will we see another American man get in there? Like I told you, as soon as Novak retires, maybe some more of these young guys like Fonseca could come into to the mix. You never know with the other guys that are young up-and-comers that are coming in. You really want to see other guys get a chance and not have the same two guys make it every single time. So personally, I'm kind of tired of the Sinner Alcaraz matchup. I'm
going to be at the Yankee game. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to watch the Sinner Alcaraz matchup. And honestly, I'd rather be in a suite eating burgers, hot dogs, which John talked about last episode, and a couple of burgers, hot tea. I'd rather be stuffed my face watching a baseball game at this point than watching the Sinner Alcaraz matchup. But like Kevin brought up a good point. We're probably going to see this for the next 10 years. And I hate to say it, but that's probably the likelihood of the scenario. Because unless Taylor Fritz takes that next step, which he hasn't, or unless Ben Shelton really decides to have fire in his stomach, which he doesn't have yet, or when Tommy Paul decides to, take it to another level, we're just going to see Americans falter over and over and over again. And it's like I said, we haven't seen an American win a Grand Slam since Andy Roddick won the U.S. Open now 22 years ago. It's a joke.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Matt. I mean, it's that long for an American man because guys like Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, and Rafael Nadal, even Andy Murray to an extent, they all ruled the game for the past decade and a half because all those four guys were just so good at the game and continuously getting the results. And you miss out on guys like Roddick, who like the Americans, who simply just can't get past them because they have what it takes to get there. But if they run into one of those four guys, and now you run into Sinner, Alcaraz, or even Novak, get real, and it's not going to happen, So until someone like that is going to come into the fray, whether it be an American or not, even Sacha Zverev or even Medvedev, they can still be contenders when Novak retires, and you start to see them break out into a little bit. I know Zverev beat Novak because Novak had to retire in the injury in the Australian Open semifinal. You wonder why these guys have not gotten over the hump yet. Even Andrei Rublev, poor guy, hasn't got past the quarterfinal in his entire career. And maybe I think it's because he runs into guys like Djokovic all the time. Because every single time he goes there, it's usually one of Djokovic, Medvedev, Zverev, all those guys. And he has not been able to get over the hump. Now, it's not just certain players that you can't win against. It's also different factors too. Is your mental game poised and strong? Is your forehand and your backhand strong? For Rublev, obviously his strength is his forehand. Backhand, not so much. His mental game, very weak. He gets into a temper tantrum with things that don't go his way. And does he move good? Does he have? Is your health regimen in place? These are all factors you have to come into play. Are you better at this surface? It's all different stuff that you have to mash into one, and you have to not perfect it, but be good at all of them if you're going to get over the hump into the next level. Now, guys like Novak, Sinner, and Alcaraz have all those qualities, and that's why they're at the top of the game right now. But if Novak retires, like I said, you'll start to see some of those guys, like I mentioned, coming to the forefront to maybe contest with Sinner and Alcaraz. But until that happens, it's going to be Sinner, Alcaraz until the end of time.
I know. It's annoying, unfortunately. I agree with the tennis world. I really do at this point. And I mentioned it before, really quick before we transition, because we're going to come into our second hour in a little bit. Taylor Fritz is slowly starting to become the next John Isner. I said this to Kevin. John Isner was an American who was very talented, made a lot of semifinals, made a lot of quarterfinals, never won a Grand Slam, but he had the potential to. But he ran into Nadal and Federer and Djokovic so many times, and even better players, and he just couldn't get over the hump. And actually, John Isner was the king of aces. He had more aces than anyone else in tennis history, which is actually kind of cool. But again, John Isner is untitled. And unfortunately, Taylor Fritz is kind of falling in line with that category, even though he's 27 years old. Which, by the way, Taylor Fritz is, I think, a little bit younger than me. Call me up, Taylor. Hey, Taylor, let's be buddies. I know you're from California, but let's be buddies.
Oh, you should link up coast to coast.
We should. West Coast to the East Coast. It'd all be cool. All right. That's going to be cool. All right. So for those of you who are tuning into this episode, we are in hour number 2 of Foursquare Sports. As I mentioned, Matt Sirianni, Alec Nava, Kevin Zalskovics, John Welch. We are here for another hour. And in this second hour, we got a lot of NBA talk to go over. We have fresh Final Five to go over. And we have, in other news, Gavin McKenna, which I think Alec is really looking forward to. But before we actually go into those things, we're going to start off with a new thing, and this is called the Seattle Story. So what is the Seattle Story? We're going to go into all the major sporting teams in the city of Seattle, Washington, and we're going to give you a 2.5-minute sentiment on each team. So, for instance, John will get 2.5 minutes to talk about the Seahawks. Kev will get 2.5 minutes to talk about the Seattle Mariners. I'll get 2.5 minutes on the Kraken, and I will talk about the Washington Huskies football team for 2.5 minutes. So we're going to start off with football. John, what do you have on the Seahawks?
Well, I wanted to go over the paradigm shift that's actually happening with the Seahawks, and I know that Mike McDaniel's first year was a little rough last year as a head coach, but he comes from the Baltimore Ravens. He was their defensive coordinator. He built one of the strongest defenses in the league, and he's doing that again in Seattle. And so what I see happening is a restructure that hasn't happened since the beginning of the Pete Carroll era. Excuse me. And one of the things that I noticed that I haven't seen actually happen was one of the strongest performances in the offseason by the Seahawks. Some of the biggest names that they brought in. Normally, the Seahawks have players exiting, like Richard Sherman going to San Francisco several years ago, and situations like that. Yep. This year, they have one of the best offensive lines I've seen since they traded Russell Okung to the New Orleans Saints for Jimmy Graham. They have a really, really sneaky tight end room. One of those is Arroyo, which they got in the draft. I think they are going to be relentless in their secondary. Mm-hmm. And some of the names that they just brought in the offseason just kind of are mind-blowing. DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys, Shaquille Griffin from the Vikings, Sam Darnold from the Vikings, Cooper Kupp from the Rams, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. These are players that are known for playing for other teams, and now they're all on the Seahawks. So this melting pot of players. I don't know what to expect. Like, I'm excited for these players. I have a friend who's a Cowboys fan, and I can't wait to run out and get a 0 jersey and have Lawrence on my back in a Seahawks jersey, because I think he's going to do fantastic in that 3-4 scheme that's coming. They had probably one of the best draft classes of 2025. They got a lineman, they got a wide receiver, they got a tight end, they got a safety. Very, very strong, very, very powerful Seahawks team. And I think with the new offensive coordinator, I expect them to run the ball a lot more than Ryan Grubb did last year. So this is going to be a Seahawks team with a lot of big names, but in the X's and the O's, they're going to be strongest with players that you don't know. They're going to, they have an insane amount of linebackers that the league hasn't heard of yet. So I'm really excited to see a stronger run game. The Seahawks are going to actually get to the quarterback, which is something that they haven't done in the last 2 or 3 years. And I don't know. After Sam Darnold had an amazing year with the Vikings, I think there's going to be some air raid sirens going off.
Maybe even just maybe a resurrection of the Legion of Boom 2.0. Maybe something like that.
Well, I was struggling to come up with the word, And I think everybody wants to say Legion of Boom 2.0, but the song going off of my head was Outkast Bombs Over Baghdad. I think this is the Legion of Bomb. They're just gonna carpet bomb and
Legion
on
of
defense. On defense, yeah.
I love that. I love that a lot. All right, now we're gonna go on the ice. We're gonna go to the Kraken. Alec, what is the latest on the Seattle Kraken?
The Kraken, they missed the playoffs for the third time in their fourth year as a franchise. They have some intriguing players, but they lack the players that can truly make an impact. They do have a nice 1-2 punch down the middle of Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. Wright found his way onto the line at full time, and he's making it smart. There are signs of progress from this past season. There are question marks of big free agent additions. One that was at least solid, though. Brandon Montour did impress in his first year at the Emerald City. Chandler Stevenson, he was all right. But that contract that he signed comes with a big question mark. The underlying defensive metrics from this Kraken team weren't that impressive under Dan Biosma. And a new coaching staff included the departure of Jay Leach, who was crucial in establishing the defensive identity of the Kraken. And because they switched over from Dave Haxtell to Biosma, they end up bottom 10 in shots allowed per 60. And it doesn't help that the goaltending continues to be a very mixed bag. Joey Decor's been solid, but Philip Grubauer's been a major flop in his tenure in Seattle. Granted, Decor isn't a bad goalie. He's been consistent on the Kraken. But the fact that he's been consistent on the Kraken is a very bad look for Grubauer. If there's anything that went right for them, it's the trades they made. Capo Caco, comfortable on the top 6 role after the development with the Rangers stalled out. They got 2 first-round picks from trading away Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. And they got a second-round pick out trading Brandon Tanev to his original team, the Winnipeg Jets. Goal scoring's been in question for Seattle, but they went from bottom 5 in 2024 to league average last season. But they need a defensive version of that solution for this upcoming season to provide the consistency that evade them as a franchise. It's going to be busy. They got started by getting Mason Marchment from Dallas to take advantage of the Stars' cap crunch. Then they signed Ryan Lindgren to a 4-year deal with the hope that he returns to Rangers form at his peak as a prime shutdown defenseman. He had a down year last season, but they're hoping that he bounces back to form. Andrei Burakovsky dealt to Chicago for Joe Veleno. Eventually, he got bought out. Then the third and final trade for Frederick Gaudreau, who comes to the Kraken after having one of the better seasons of his career as a bottom 6 forward. He had a better offensive output this past season with a 16.4% shooting rate, nearly double his career percentage. But there are questions of if that's going to be sustained. So now, with the Kraken, what they're looking at is if they can take that step with Beniers, right, and if some of the young players can develop, like Riker Evans, who they still need to sign to a new contract because he's a restricted free agent, and if Lane Lambert can be the solution as their head coach. If anything, you learn a lot from your first head coaching gig, so as to be a better head coach. Lambert learned a lot from his Islanders years. Can that translate to Seattle? Only time will tell.
Interesting. Philip Grubauer, once upon a time, had a phenomenal postseason run with the Kraken back in the 2022-23 playoffs. He's kind of fallen off a little bit since then, but Seattle's been very aggressive, and I like the way that they're trying to go about this and try to build up a good product. Now we're going to go to Kevin on the baseball side of things. What is the latest on the Seattle Mariners?
Well, for the Seattle Mariners, a few days ago when they in that Yankees series, in that third final rubber match of the series, Brian Wu had 7 1/3 innings of fun before he was taken out for Matt Brash. Was 7 1/3 innings pitched, allowing 2 hits on 2 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And the Yankees were able to come back and win that game. But the game directly after that, which was a couple of days ago, against the Tigers, who are the MLB's best team currently when you think of record-wise, they beat them with a crushing defeat of a final score of 12-3. And in that game, how about Donovan Solano going 2 for 4 with a triple, a walk, an RBI, scoring 2 runs. Julio Rodriguez 1 for 4, a homer, walk, 2 RBIs and 2 runs. And Cal Raleigh 2 for 5, getting home runs number 37 and 38, which leads MLB in the league for home runs. And because of that 30th home run, it was not only a grand slam, but it also set an AL record for the most home runs before the All-Star break since Chris Davis did it with 37 home runs in the 2013 season. And Cal Raleigh, even though he didn't get a home run today in today's game, if he gets one more homer in the final game tomorrow before the break in the final game against the Tigers to make it 39, then he's going to tie Barry Bonds' record, which for the most homers before the All-Star break, and that's the most in MLB history at 39. We did it with the Giants back in 2001. So Cal Raleigh, he's still breaking records for the Seattle Mariners. That's just another one he broke. And also today's game against the Tigers, again, and the runs just keep on coming. They break out for a season high 15 runs, where they had 15 runs on 19 hits. Randy Arozarena, a homer, got hit by a pitch. 2 RBIs, scored 4 runs and a stolen. But J-Rod did get his. He got 3 for 5 also. He hit a homer, a double, a walk, a couple of RBIs, 3 runs and a stolen base. And even Luke Raley, who has been really good this season, he went 2 for 15-7 victory over the Detroit Tigers. And George Kirby was able to get the win there. He drops his ERA to now 4.50 on the season, and he is one of the better pitchers for the Seattle Mariners. He pitched 5 innings, allowing 5 hits on 4 earned runs, allowing 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, and allowing just the 1 homer. And the Seattle Mariners currently are 5.5 games back of the Houston Astros in the American League West. And if they're going to contend with the Astros, they got to continue to rely on their offense and their pitching staff, who many have regarded as one of the best, if not the best, pitching staff in baseball. And you're showing them why. And the offense has really started to come into fruition. And I think that starts with Cal Raleigh, who's now leading the league with 38 home runs and is also leading the league in RBIs, like I mentioned earlier, with 82 RBIs on the season. And if he continues that trend, I mean, he's on pace to break Aaron Judge's home run record. Currently, he's on pace for 64 homers right now. So if Seattle Mariners are going to go anywhere this year, if they're going to get to the wild card or even win the division, they have to make sure that their offense is still consistent as it has been today and yesterday and continues to thrive on. And their pitching, I think, is going to be fine. It's really going to depend on how consistent they're going to be. But the Seattle Mariners right now, the last 2 games they've been mashing for 27 runs against the Tigers, able to knock both Tariq Skubal and Caleb Mize off of their games. And Tariq Skubal is an AL Cy Young candidate. Won the Cy Young last year, could potentially again for the 2nd straight time this year. But last night did not look like it, as they gave up 4 runs in last night's loss. And Seattle Mariners got to keep on rolling if they want to get back to the winning ways. And so far, they've been doing it against them.
And the amazing thing about it is the Mariners are also on the doorstep of getting a wild card spot. I mean, we still have a half a season to go. But Boston has climbed back. They were a few games behind Seattle for that 3rd wild card spot. So Boston's climbed back. Tampa Bay is hanging strong. So it's really interesting to see how that will go. Now, as far as the Washington Huskies football team, so Devin Williams Jr. is going to be the starter in year 2 under the Jed Fish era. You're looking at guys for them. Denzel Boston supposedly is like a really good receiver that people in Washington University have their eyes on. As far as their running backs, they're looking at Jonah Coleman potentially as their starting running back. A lot of people are, skeptical about him, but people think he could turn it around. People also like guys like Omari Evans, who showed potential. Rasheed Williams also has decent mechanics for his game. And then you're looking at the offensive line. You're looking at your tight end, Decker DeGraff is your starting tight end, and then your offensive line. You're looking at Landon Hatchett, Carver Willis, Packy Fino, and Drew Azapardi are looking at as your starting offensive lineman for the Washington Huskies. And then even there, your defensive side of the unit, this was a unit that was, I think, 9th in college football last year. Now, the reason why they're in a little bit of a tough spot this year is because last year they were in the Big Ten for the first time, so the conference expanded to 18 teams. The year before that, they made the national championship game with Michael Penix Jr., but now there was a new regime. Coach is gone, so now they had to pick up the scraps. And, I think realistically, you can maybe look at Washington being a middle of the pack team in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is just too top heavy right now with the defending national champion Ohio State. Michigan's always going to be in the mix. And then maybe even Wisconsin could probably turn some head. Illinois is always good. Michigan State can be good if they actually push the right buttons. But you're looking at them as like maybe like a tier 4, tier 3 team in the Big Ten. They're not really up there, but middle of the pack, and maybe even a bowl game. I think people will be happy with that. Washington.
Don't forget about Penn State and Oregon too.
And Penn State and Oregon. Well, Oregon was the number 1 seed in college football last year, and then they lost to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Penn State's still also good. They made it to the semifinals of the college football playoff. So the Big Ten, the problem for Washington is that they're so top heavy, and I think that's their biggest problem. But it could be seen as a good problem to have, but they also got to step up their game. Now, as Kevin tries to get his audio back, we're going to try and go over the latest acquisitions and trades for the NBA. But before we get into those trades, I want to go over a couple financial moves that happened over the course of this week. And that would be that Devin Booker and Paolo Banchero got their max extensions. Devin Booker got a 2-year, $145 million max extension. Paolo Banchero got a 5-year, $239 million max extension. And then if you look at the Thunder, my God. I mean, they're spending money like it's nothing. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got a $285 million extension over 4 years. Chet Holmgren got a $250 million extension. And then Jeremiah Williams got a $287 million extension. So the Thunder are trying to keep their young core. I applaud them for doing that. That's what got them to the finals. But hold on a second. All right. So actually, we're gonna take a pivot right now. I know Kevin is a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're gonna make things work here. We're gonna go into in other news. So Gavin McKenna, and Alec and I talked about this. I thought this was really, really cool. Gavin McKenna, who's a 17-year-old prodigy, just committed to the University of Penn State hockey, where he'll be playing his college ball. And I can tell you right now, if you've seen footage of this kid, Gavin McKenna, he is probably the next big thing. Now, I know they say stuff about this, like guys like Connor Bedard and Connor McDavid and stuff like that. But this kid at 17, I mean, this is something you don't typically see from a 17-year-old. Alec, what has impressed you the most about this kid, Gavin?
You know, and I want to tell Penn State fans this. You have no idea how seismic the implications of the news of Gavin McKenna coming to you guys. He's the presumptive first overall pick of next year's NHL entry draft. He's going to be playing his draft-eligible season with you guys. He is dubbed the next one, which is a title that goes to any generational superstar that exemplifies the qualities of being a franchise caliber player. He dominated the WHL with the Medicine Hat Tigers. The CHL is a solid junior league to play at. The NCAA could be argued as tougher competition compared to the free CHL leagues between the OHL, WHL, and QMJHL. But even so, those free leagues produce generational talents like Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon. Crosby played his draft-eligible season with the Rimouski Oceanic, Nathan McKinnon with the Halifax Mooseheads in the QMJHL, McDavid with the Erie Otters. It's a tough break for Medicine Hat because they're losing someone who dominated the league as a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old. He won a WHL title. It would be leading the way for Medicine Hat to be a favorite to reach the Memorial Cup again. But for Penn State, the implications here are huge. Let's think about this. At the midway mark of last season, they were at a losing record and were staring at a season where they would barely be making the Big Ten tournament. But they went on to clinch the final seed in the Allentown Regional and made to the national semifinals for the first time ever as a 4 seed, mind you.
Yep.
And they were the first regional 4 seed to do this since Providence in 2019. Not only are they adding McKenna, they're also getting first-round draft choice Jackson Smith, who was picked 14th overall by the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Luke Misa, the brother of the second overall pick of this year, Michael Misa. They want to win a national championship, and they're a much better team with McKenna, Smith, and Misa. But national championships aren't necessarily what drive recruiting and reputation on a program.
Yes.
This is what Penn State is selling out on McKenna. perception, and imagery gets you to front pages in sports magazines, newspapers, headlines, and social media. This is what buys you a spot in hockey history in the college ranks. Watch out for Penn State. They're going to be a team that's going to be feared in the 2026 season.
I mean, I like the way Penn State was able to snatch the big fish, and I like the way that
Guaranteed.
guaranteed.
Well, might
That
put
will-
some fries on it too.
That's a good one. But think of it, like this kid's not even allowed to drink alcohol yet, and he's gonna be the face of Penn State. And like you said, Alec, this team made the Frozen Four this past season, which I think is absolutely impressive. So they're trying to capitalize off of their success by getting the biggest prospect in modern history. I know Connor Bedard was like regarded as the next big thing, but look at how bad he fell apart in Chicago. So,
oh my goodness. One YouTube account I watched it compared him to said that he's basically the NHL version of Trevor Lawrence.
yeah, such a shame. It really is such a shame. What do you think, John?
Well, I want to emphasize that this kid who's 17 would have been the Cooper Flag of the NHL draft.
Yes.
Right. I think it's interesting and important to emphasize that comparison, because I bet that's how I have it in my mind. And I think that's how important and how much of an impact he's going to have for Penn State. I think they're, if they're not the favorite to win the Frozen Four next year, they should be, or somebody's doing something wrong.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Then again, the Big Ten, I don't know when was the last time a Big Ten team won a national championship. It's got to be a while, because I last remember that Michigan State won one in 2007 when they had Justin Abdelkader. But this Penn State team is set for a possible championship. There could be a realistic scenario where that happens, because they already have some returning pieces like Charlie Serrato, who was just taken the second round by the Hurricanes, and Aiden Fink, who is looking like a draft steal in the 7th round for the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, I mean, this kid. I mean, the NHL is evolving. I mean, there's talent everywhere you look across the NHL. Where this Gavin McKenna fits is going to be interesting to see where he ends up going. But to me, I think the Predators would be an interesting spot. I mean, this is a team who made the playoffs not this past year, but the year before. So they have some flashes of potential and maybe even enticing this young man to come over there. But there's also, like, no one wants to go to the Blackhawks. No one wants to go to the Blackhawks. They buried Connor Bedard, and I think the last thing anyone wants is for him to go there.
Oh,
So it's very, very unfortunate.
It is.
Oh, my God. But while we are on the subject of another news, I do want to announce another thing. So we are known for having our bracket challenges here in Foursquare Sports. And what better way to break the mold and create some time and content by saying that we will be having our Little League World Series predictions bracket challenge. So for those of you who don't know about the Little League World Series, it's 20 teams, 10 for the United States of America and 10 international. And the way this works is there will be elimination games, there will be winners bracket, losers brackets, and ultimately the goal is out of 20 teams, one will become champion. Before the actual College World Series starts, there will be regionals. And I have been following New Jersey Little League Baseball for the last couple of weeks. So I figured it'd be interesting that I actually mentioned this now, the fact that we're going to be doing something for the Little League World Series. I know that Lake Mary, Florida won the Little League World Series last year, and the international teams are trying to get a new champion because we have not had an international country win the championship since Japan in 2017. So ever since then, it's been California, Hawaii, Tennessee, and now Florida splitting it the last several years. But I'll tell you right now, for the person who comes in last place, there will be a punishment, as always. But if it's me, I will literally do anything I can to push myself to the breaking point, because I have decided that I will do one of the two following: do 20 tire flips, or run at 6 miles an hour on treadmill for an hour. So I call it the 6x60. Now, for someone like Alec, who was into running and ran a 5K earlier today, so obviously Alec is in good training condition. This is probably the kind of punishment he would want, but I got to do this to myself. And while I'm in New York City, I haven't been eating great, so I got to watch my weight a little bit. But if I'm going to prepare myself, I ran the beer mile. Alec knows that. John wasn't there for that, but that was an interesting day. I can tell you that much.
Well, Kevin and I were witnesses.
Yeah, I forgot to send John the video all this time. We're not showing this on this show, by the way. That's confidential. John, what do you think?
Of your punishment, unless you pick with the 8 ball again, I think you're probably the odds-on favorite for this Little League bracket challenge.
Well, I can tell you this: as far as picking the 8 ball again, like they say in New York, forget about it. Forget about it. I ain't picking with no 8 ball again. I can't do it, especially because it cost me the March Madness bracket challenge. Which, by the way, Kevin won. Also, John won the NBA bracket challenge. So congrats to him on that. So what we're gonna do, actually, and while we're here, all right, we're still trying to get Kevin back. We're gonna figure that out with Kevin while he's getting his audio back. But one thing I wanted to mention while we are on the subject of the Little League World Series challenge bracket. We have the MLB playoff bracket coming soon. I can't wait for that. We're going to have our NFL division pick prediction coming soon. I can't wait for that. And I think we got Kevin back. Kevin.
Hello? You guys hear me?
Loud and clear, buddy.
There we go.
Right, there we go.
There we go. The beauty of technology and the beauty of friendship working together. So we have a half hour before, and I think John disappeared. Where did he go?
Oh.
He's like John Cena. He disappeared. You can't see him. Up there he is.
Oh. Now
After
we
you
see
too,
you,
John.
now you don't.
Oh, my God. All right, so we're going to go into the NBA for a little bit because I do want to get into Fresh Founder Fried. And for those of you who don't know who's on the hot seat for Fresh Founder Fried, it's me. It's me. And I can tell you right now, I'm doing something off the cuff. I literally had, this was like a last-minute topic of discussion that I wanted to get into. So for the NBA, I want to get into this. So I was going to say the Oklahoma City Thunder extended their trio, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Jeremiah Williams for $285, $250, and $287 million each in max extensions. Now, one thing that the Thunder have done over the last few years that was really, really efficient, they've drafted really well. And they've also done really well in trades and acquisitions. But you're throwing all this money at these youngsters, and I don't know how they're going to handle it. Kev, if you look at what the Thunder are doing right now, throwing their money at their trio, what do you think this is going to do?
I mean, I think that those kind of extensions had to be done because, they just won the championship for the first time in their franchise history. Right after they were called the Seattle Supersonics when they won in 1979. I think it was very important for the Thunder to lock those three guys up as your core three to build around. So locking them up now, I think is a good stepping stone to build the team around. I think because when you look at what the Thunder were this past season, they were the best team without question out of all the teams. And they were the best scoring team. They had the best defense. You had a veteran presence in there with Alex Caruso. I think another thing you should do is I think you should try to extend him and try to get more veterans in here, along with some great shooting guards in there to provide and bolster some more offense in there. The bench has been really good for them. I would add a couple more bench pieces in there. I would try to get some more veterans, but I think building around SGA, Holmgren, and Jalen Williams, it's definitely a first step into getting better, and possibly the Thunder trying to contend for a repeat, something that hasn't been done since, I believe, the Warriors in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah. The Thunder have a lot to be proud of from this past year. Think of it. This team was a 20-win team 3 years ago, and they've completely turned their fortunes around. What are you going to say, Alec?
Yes, they know how to acquire talent. And the scariest part is that they still have incoming draft selections. And they just gave their big free max extensions. People are going to say, oh, the second apron's going to catch up to them. Well, Sam Presti constructed this team both for the present and for the future. If there's a player that is going to be on a contract in which it's going to be caught by the second apron, well, they can just ship them up and get more draft picks in return for that. So they're all good. Presti is playing 8-dimensional chess, while the rest of the league is playing checkers. And it's clear and obvious that Presti is the best general manager in the league. There really isn't a close second to this. These contracts are well-deserved for the big three of them. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, well-deserved. He's going to be, his average annual value is going to be $71.25 billion per year on his 4-year extension. That's a deserved contract. To justify this contract, you have to be playing at an MVP type of level. We will be getting to another contract after this because I have something to say about that.
Yes. Okay. John, so 285, 250, 287. If you do the math, and I'm the math wizard here, that is a grand total of $822 million amongst 3 players, which is absolutely ludicrous. Do you think the Thunder are, do you think that this Thunder team can repeat and maybe even become a dynasty with these 3 young players?
Well, I think you need to look at how the season went. The Pacers started the season in the negative and then came out of nowhere to start 2025. But consistency, especially on the West, I think they have a dynasty. I think this is the 21st century Chicago Bulls. I'll just come out there and say that right now. Like I think that I think the Thunder will be there the next 5 years, or at least in contention.
So I agree with the contention part, but the Thunder are really, really good. But as long as Nikola Jokic is with the Nuggets are going to be in contention, and they do play in a really tough division. Keep in mind, I know NBA divisions don't really mean anything, and conferences mean more, but when you play the Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets more than anybody in the regular season, that is going to be a challenge for you because these 3 division opponents, they want to one-up each other. And we know the Timberwolves have talent, and they feel like they're right on the doorstep of being an NBA in the NBA Finals. We know that the Nuggets have championship experience with Nikola Jokic, but now that Mike Malone is gone, you figure that maybe, just maybe, that they might take a step back a little bit. But the Thunder have a really good team, but the Western Conference is tough as a whole.
I'll add to that, Matt. I do think you're right. The West is going to get better, and they have. And like you mentioned, the Denver Nuggets. This is the same Nuggets team that took this same Thunder team to a 7-game series. Let's keep that in mind. And also, you also have teams like the Rockets making a ton of acquisitions in the offseason, including acquiring Kevin Durant and then getting rid of Green and Brooks and keeping Şengün in their place, having a good draft, and with all the stuff that they made under their belt, you could see the Rockets contending too as well. And also, let's not forget, the Mavericks just drafted Cooper Flagg, so I'm sure they're going to be better as well and could possibly contend as well. The Lakers, they're still going to keep LeBron for now at the moment with Luka. We'll see if they get any better and if their defense gets any better, but you don't rule them out either. The Timberwolves as well. I mean, you saw what they did in the postseason. So who knows, which team is going to contend with the Thunder. Now, it's not clear cut as opposed to, say, what the Eastern Conference is this year, where I think it should be either the Cavaliers or the Knicks coming out of the Eastern Conference with the injuries to Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton. I know the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic are like could be lurking in the trenches there. But it's not. But the Western Conference is not as clear cut as the Eastern Conference, and it's going to be a dogfight to see who's going to contend with the Thunder. But the West definitely got better.
Absolutely. Now, our second to last story in the NBA that we're going to get into is another person who got an extension. Is the one and only Orlando Magic superstar Paolo Banchero. Got a 5-year, $239 million max extension. The Orlando Magic have not been a mainstay playoff team the last few years, but they have been in the play-in tournament. They were the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs last year. They have improved quite a bit. They're not pushovers anymore. And Paolo Banchero has kind of been the catalyst for that. Now, I don't know if this is the contract that Alec wanted to discuss, but Alec, I'll let you have the floor for this one.
Well, I was going to get to Devin Booker, but I'm down with Paolo Banchero. Well, it's no surprise that from the moment that he was drafted, he's an instant impact player for the present and the future of the Magic. This past season was one ravaged by injuries, but even so, they were lacking offensively despite being one of the better defensive teams in the league, which is why they had to trade for Desmond Bane to get another 3-point shooting option. Banchero it averaged 25.9 points per game in an injury-filled season for Orlando. When you take away that 1 month after he returned from his oblique injury, those points per game numbers actually get better for him.
Yeah.
He lives by the mid-range, which is the defining shot of many star players of past, present, and future. You look at the likes of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Edwards. If you look at legends like LeBron James and Kevin Durant, who thrive on mid-range shots. This season has been a strange one for Paolo. Poor play for the oblique injury skewed his numbers. But the Magic believe that he can improve on his stats, especially on the mid-range, where he shoots 42.5% on 4.4 mid-range shots right after he came back from the All-Star break. He had a 58.3% true shooting percentage, too, after the break. So he's carrying the burden of the stardom, is on his way to potentially being a superstar. And when you add Desmond Bane, you take more of the pressure off of him and open up another lane for him so as to maneuver through, so as to take the pressure off of him, because he get another option right around him, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs. So, and now it's clear he is the face of this franchise. The Magic, they know that he can become the next big thing. Well, there's still a leap for him to make, but by year 2, I can see this becoming a good contract.
There's potential to be had there in Orlando. There really is. Now you mentioned Devin Booker. I almost forgot about him. Now I got to get your thoughts on that. So Devin Booker signed a 2-year, $145 million max extension with the Phoenix Suns. The Suns got rid of Kevin Durant. I can only imagine. That's $72.5 million in average annual value. And if you don't know what average annual value means, it's how much you're making a year. Now talk about that.
Now, we get that Devin Booker's still in his prime years. This extension will go until he is 33, and 2030. But at his peak, he's a top 15 player in the NBA. I get that you want to keep him around. I get that you want to make him happy. I get that you want to build around him while he's still in his prime. But do you really want to give him a contract that's going to pay him $72.5 million on average annual value for someone who never won a league MVP or never has been in the top or never has finished above the top 15 in the NBA most advanced metrics or among the consensus among NBA players? He's still in his prime years. But even though you're making this extension, whether or not he is the caliber superstar required to justify a contract, that is irrelevant to Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory. Homegrown player. Fans love him. But there is a clear price. With the dead money that Bradley Beal is likely to leave, if he does get bought out, it's going to be drastic. And the Western Conference is absolutely brutal. If Booker's contract is rendered unmovable, where does that leave the Suns in the short-term future or even in the long-term future? They're in hell financially.
Yeah.
And with the lack of draft capital that they had, they don't have control of their first-round picks until 2032. And even so, that pick is frozen. If the Suns are going nowhere, how happy is he going to be on a team that doesn't go on runs in which he desires? And how happy will Magic be with the results that he had? This contract to me reeks of desperation of the Suns. And I can argue that it's going to be much harder to trade, and even go as far as to saying that even if a no trade clause is not there, Booker's contract, if if it doesn't go the way they want, it could be arguably even more regrettable than Bradley Beal's, given the state of the Suns. How I see it is that this is a very high risk, very low reward contract given the circumstances. It's a gross overpay from a team with very little hope and no clear long-term solution to improve the team.
That's very efficient to say because I feel like the Suns have just fallen apart at the seams. And I think getting rid of Kevin Durant after he cried his way out was kind of like the tipping point of it all. But now it's just like, why are the Suns doing this? They didn't make the play-in last year. It's like, why are they doing this now? It's just like, why? The timing sucks completely. And you fired, your third head coach in 3 years?
It just makes no sense. And Booker had an influence on hiring a new coach, Jordan Ott. But I don't know where the Suns go from here. It's Ishbia. I don't know what he's doing. He's just too hands-on, and that's it.
Yeah, seriously. All right, last story before we get into first final fraud, and this is to the delight of Kevin Zealous colleagues. The New York Knicks have finally hired their next head coach. It is former Sacramento Kings head coach Mike Brown. And if you saw footage of Twitter of what Mike Brown is like, he is a firecracker. He will curse. He will scream at you. He will run down the practice court. But you know what? I think the Knicks need that fire and intensity. So before I get into John and get his perspective, Kevin, are you happy?
Overall, yeah, I'm fine with the hire. Again, I said it like I don't know how many episodes ago, but I'm still dumbfounded as to why they never even like reached out to Mike Malone when I thought when they fired Tom Thibodeau, like he was the clear candidate in my eyes to really replace a guy like Thibodeau with his pedigree with the Denver Nuggets and how we got them to their first ever championship, and then the front office fires him because of disagreements he had with the GM, which I think is nonsense. But I digress. I mean, I think that Mike Brown is a fine candidate, along with Taylor Jenkins, who I thought was like the two finalists in that coaching search. And at the start of it, there was a few hiccups thrown in there. Like they were trying to ask for permission for like guys like Quinn Snyder, Billy Donovan, of those guys, like which I did not understand at all. And like they tried to get these assistant coaches in there as well, like James Borrego, even Don Staley to a point as well. I'm like, where the heck are we going with this? Just hire a guy who's going to get the job done and stop messing around. And I think that Mike Brown is probably the best fit in this scenario. Now, again, I'm not sure if he's necessarily an upgrade to Tom Thibodeau, but I do think that he is a more fiery coach than Tom Thibodeau, and to where like he can get the most out of his players.
Absolutely.
And he knows how to go deep into his bench and is not afraid to call someone out if they're not performing to the standards and the effort to how Mike Brown likes to have him played. And keep in mind, Mike Brown is a coach that knows how to win. Like he has, I believe, a 600 career coaching winning percentage, and I think that's like top 10 all time. And he's coached like Hall of Famers to the likes. He's coached LeBron James. He's coached Kobe Bryant. So this is a coach that knows how to win basketball games. And look at what he's done. Not this past year, of course, but 2 years ago when he was the head coach at the Kings, you saw how they turned that team around and how they got to the playoffs. Even though they didn't make it very far in the playoffs, he turned that Kings franchise from being irrelevant to relevant with his coaching standards and presence. Now, obviously, it was a different story last year, but I think the Knicks saw that and said that if he could turn a franchise around like the Kings that were basically irrelevant for a long time, I mean, with the Knicks, now he has a good environment going into it, good players coming into it. He made that Kings team relevant with barely any relevant players on it. So if he's coming in with the Knicks with now championship aspirations, there's going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders. And I think that as long as he can manage those expectations, I think that Mike Brown is the right fit.
All right, so all the promise there. I mean, look, the Knicks had to work with what they got. James Dolan and Leon Rose didn't even reach out to Mike Malone, which I agree with you. It was kind of silly. But you know what? Given the circumstances they had to go through, I think they made the right decision in that case. John, what do you think?
I wanted to touch on something Kevin had mentioned. I think Brown did A lot with a little in Sacramento. The Sacramento Kings have had a lot of drama. There was talk about them leaving Sacramento, the team being sold.
Right.
There hasn't been a high caliber track record for players on that team the last couple of years, and they still have made it to the playoffs of late. I think this is a chef's kiss of a combination. I think he's going to bring a fire and an inspiration to the Knicks that they didn't have with Sib. And I think you need that when you're playing the Celtics. You need that when you're playing the Pacers or the Cavs. And I think the Knicks are going to be right back in it and in contention, if not winning the East next year because of this.
I think there's more reasons why the Knicks should win the East. Tyrese Halliburton down for the entire 25-26 season. No Jason Tatum for the entire 25-26 season. The Cavaliers overrated and Donovan Mitchell's kind of snake bit. You'd figure that would be a big thing for the Knicks. And while teams like Detroit are on the come up, I just think the Knicks are more experienced in this case. And I just think that the Knicks should have the East in the bag, in all things considered.
Now,
All right.
I will say, Matt, as long as they don't go and do something stupid and like give up a ton to get like go after like Giannis or like one of those things, I think they'll be fine. But they did the right thing here, which is keep the core as it is, run it back, and get bench pieces. That's exactly what they did. They went out and they got a guy like Jordan Clarkson who can provide you some nice minutes and scoring off the bench. They went out and got another big man in Gershon Yabusele, who played great minutes with the Sixers. That can be a good guy coming off the bench. Now they have one more veteran minimum contract to give out. I think they should give it to Landry Shamet because I think he provided the big difference in terms of defense and just his presence on the floor. He was positive every time he was on the floor. So I think if anyone should get the last veteran minimum contract, it should go to Shamet. And you also got to be careful of which two-player guys you want to bring in. I know in the summer league they brought in guys like James Naji
Right.
and Dink Pate. Like which guys are they going to bring up and which guys are they going to give up at the bench? So I'm very curious. But as long as they stick into that route, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree. The Knicks have a lot cut out for them. Like this should be a slam dunk for them to win the East, but we'll see what they do. All right. So 12 and a half minutes left to go. It's time for Fresh Found or Fried to conclude the show. So this is the segment where one of us every week will go on a 2.5 minute event, and the rest of the guys will rank our take, whether it's fresh meaning good, fine meaning okay, or fried meaning god awful. So last week John went. He talked about the hot dog. Well, I'm on the hot seat this week when it comes to the rotation. So I have 2.5 minutes to go on event. It can be sports related. It doesn't have to be sports related. And unfortunately, this will not be sports related. Okay, so here I go. So I've been in New York City for the last couple of days. And one thing that really stands out to me is that, man, New York City loves their pasta. I've had a lot of spaghetti. I've had penne vodka. I've had fusilli. I've had carbonara. I've had a lot of really good pastas of late. And me being an Italian stallion, I can tell you that pasta is number one in my heart when it comes to Italians. Not just me. But to me, the best pasta known to man is spaghetti. Because it's typical. Spaghetti and meatballs. You get the thick, long strings of pasta that you can twirl on your fork and eat it with a meatball in there. And if you have a good marinara sauce, it tastes edible. Now, penne vodka, it's a typical pasta. It's very simple. You just put a little bit of sauce on there. It's a very big piece of pasta that you just put on your fork and eat. Fusilli, it's kind of like spaghetti, but nothing really amazing. Lasagna, I love lasagna, but you can overfill it too much, and I just don't really see any reason why people overdo it with lasagna. Lasagna's tricky too. Like I like simple stuff. Like spaghetti is simple. And like they say, when you say kiss, keep it simple, stupid. And with spaghetti, that's exactly what you do. Now, there's gnocchi, which is a garnish type pasta, which I'm not really, a fan of, but that requires a lot of technique. And I'm also saying this type of rant because I've watched a lot of culinary shows as of late. Thank you, Gordon Ramsay. But I wanted to get into this pasta thing because I've had a lot of Italian food. Because New York City is known for their Italian food. And no matter how many times I eat pasta, whether it be my grandmother's, my mother's, my girlfriend's mother's, whatever the case may be, spaghetti is the do or die. There's no other pasta like it. There never will be. And even the people who are like, oh, what about rigatoni? Rigatoni, I think, is a little overrated because it's just like, it's kind of like penne vodka, except it can be bland at times and it's very hard to execute. But to me, spaghetti is number one in the pasta ranks. I had to say that. I've had a lot of pasta here in New York City all the 2 days I've been here. So Kevin, fresh, fine, or fried?
I'll say overall fine. I think again, kind of like with John's fresh, fine, or fried last episode. There's some good, some fresh takes in there, some fried takes. I will say, when you said that spaghetti, there's no other pasta like it. Well, what about angel hair pasta, which is basically a thin version of spaghetti? What about capellini, which is basically in between angel hair and spaghetti? I mean, different pastas call for different types of situations. Like if you're like a very sauce heavy, if you want a pasta that can like absorb the most sauce, I mean, I don't think you could go wrong with things like elbow pasta or even the little shells, because those pastas are designed to like absorb all the like different sauces. Now, sometimes there are pastas that I think are not as good as others, like farfalle, which is also called, which people call like bow tie pasta.
Right.
I think that's personally very good, but I don't think it gets enough coverage of like sauce and stuff like that. I think it's more for like a cream sauce and stuff like that. Penne I think is good for like the penne vodka is good. Maybe for like just your standard with like penne Alfredo. So penne could be a contender in there. You also have the stuffed ones. You have like tortellini and tortelloni, which are two different things. Tortelloni is square and tortellini is circle and can have cheese or whatever meat or what have you in there.
Right.
Then you have ones that are just very fancy and like don't really lend themselves well to dishes, in my opinion. Like fusilli, I think is a good one because it's like a little bit of a twirl, and I think like you kind of like it's good, but it's not. You kind of get more. You don't get as much of it as we would for like shells, elbow, and stuff like that. So I do agree that spaghetti is definitely like in the top tier when it comes to pastas. But I do think that like there are plenty of other pastas that call for different sorts of situations. So I'll say fine.
Okay. I gotta come to John next. Fresh, fine, or fried?
Fine. You were fine. You were definitely not. You were definitely not the hot dog water on your take on pasta. However, both you and Kevin missed my favorite two pastas. You forgot fettuccine.
Oh,
Nobody said anything about fettuccine. And nobody said anything about ravioli.
Ravioli.
Now, I will agree with you on how amazing a simple but elegant spaghetti can be, right? A really simple, but you know, if you have the right meat sauce and you have all of that love that goes into it, it becomes the Italian soul food that you're talking about. And so I agree with you on that point.
okay. Two fines. Alec, fresh, fine, or fried?
I guess I'm gonna have to complete the sweep and say fine as well.
I'll take
it. So as for that, I'll give you the spaghetti. I mean, spaghetti is a classic where you could have meatballs on it and serve it around. I feel you want to have different types of pastas for different types of situations. That's how I would go with it as well. You can't go wrong with any pasta. I feel when you try any pasta, that you have that taste of Italy inside of it. Rigatoni, you are vastly underrating rigatoni and how good it is. It's one of the kings or queens of pasta shapes that you can have around. You can't go wrong with it. Angel hair pasta, or how about the shell pasta? Nobody mentioned the shell pasta up around, or the bow tie pasta. Oh, Kevin, you did?
Yeah, Kevin
I
mentioned
mentioned
shell
that
both. Yeah, he
shells
mentioned
I
it.
believe the best when it comes to absorbing sauce. Yeah.
Oh man, we're getting lost in the sauce around here. And I'm talking, well, it can depend on the marinara sauce or the Alfredo sauce that we can put on these types of pastas. Spaghetti, of course, is the classic. The fettuccine is another classic. You cannot go wrong with fettuccine Alfredo or a carbonara on any given day.
Oh, carbonara is fantastic.
Oh,
but that's part of that is spaghetti, though. You know?
Yeah, part of that is spaghetti. Or I mentioned the bow tie, just the farfalle. The penne is a classic.
Farfadelli.
Pappardelle.
There are many different types of pastas that you could choose from. So I feel it's a matter of what type of pasta you want to have on a day-by-day basis. If you want to have a pasta.
Oh my God! All right, so 3-5. I will gladly take it. It's better than getting it fried from somebody. I will gladly take it. Oh my God! Oh my God! Now I feel like in 4 minutes I gotta have some pasta now.
You
Now
can
I
have
feel like I gotta
fried
some
chicken on pasta.
Oh yeah, chicken and pasta. It's gotta be a chicken cutlet though. It's gotta be like a Tommy Cutlet thing. Oh my God. Okay. Now before we close the show, we gotta go into what's new. So, a couple episodes ago, John mentioned that we were taking our show to another rank. That would be in the radio side of things. John, what do you got?
Well, so the antenna has been raised. We have our call letters and our radio dialed in. So I'm happy to announce that 102.3 KIXP, the Island Experience, will now be carrying Foursquare Sports.
That's awesome.
So we will have our show off the coast of Seattle in Puget Sound, airing weekly.
That sounds awesome. And the reason why we did the Seattle story, because we knew that we were going to be in for a Seattle-based radio station. So we wanted to do the Seattle story as a way to also pay respect and also show some class toward the people who put us on the airways at KIPX. We are very excited for you for this opportunity. And that's 102.3 FM, correct, John?
Right. Yep.
The Island Experience. We can't wait for that. A lot of stuff to come. This is being recorded on July 12th, 2025. This episode is called Grass Ain't Greener, by the way. But when you hear this episode on KIPX, The Island Experience, you will hear this on, I believe, a Sunday night. Okay. So you'll hear this on Sunday night. But as far as like the YouTube recording, you will see it on our YouTube channel. And you will also have to check out our Instagram page. We also have our WordPress website, foursquaresports.wordpress.com. And also, real quick, I don't have the image of that, but I recently made a new T-shirt for Foursquare Sports. And Alec knows where this is going. Look at his face. The look of defeat just tells you. So, before we became Foursquare Sports officially, Kevin made a little bit of a joke. He made a little bit of a joke where we would have where there should be a tickle me Alec, and if there was a tickle me Alec, you tickle it and it will say, which led to this creation of a shirt of Elmo and the word guaranteed above it. We love you, Alec. We love you, Alec.
You really want me to become the Joker so bad, don't you guys?
Oh my God. All right. We will release the shirt on our website. If you want to purchase a shirt, please contact me. Our contact information is on the website. But from Kelton's Out Salts, Alec Nava, and John Mulch, I'm Matt Sirianni. God bless you all from New York City, which is where I'm from. Alec is from North Carolina, Kevin is from Texas, and John Mulch is from Washington State. We will be with you every week. Now, we've been doing the show recording on Saturdays because Fridays have been a little bit busy as far as 4th of July and me being in New York City going to Yankee games are concerned. But don't worry, we are mostly on Fridays and sometimes Saturdays, depending on the situation. And also, before we go, one last thing I'm going to say. Don't forget to treat your elders who are 16 and over with respect, because like SpongeBob SquarePants once said, old people are the greatest. They're full of wisdom and experience. But That's actually one of my favorite quotes of all time. We cannot wait for this adventure with the Island Experience. We are genuinely grateful. Maybe a trip to Seattle might be needed eventually down the line. I've never been up there, but I hear so many good things about Seattle, Washington. So there's so much to come. We are going to have our Little League World Series bracket challenge, like I mentioned to Alec and John. Kevin was not there for that, but we will explain more of that as time goes on. But this has been Four Square Sports, sports at its core. Take care, everybody. Good night.